The Realme C12. Should you buy it? Yes? No? Maybe? Let your tech tito help you out. Hey kids, Tito James here. Welcome back to the channel where we take awesome out of the box. It hasn't been a month, parang 2 weeks lang ata, and Realme announced yet another budget-friendly smartphone in the Realme C12. Now the question is, should you buy it? Now, it's not such a clear-cut answer because, as I mentioned, the C12 makes this the third budget-friendly smartphone that Realme has released in such a short period of time. So I think the best way to get some perspective out of all of this is to look at all the three phones together. Now, I'm talking about the C11, the C15, and of course, the newly launched C12. So let's start things off by looking at the build quality and design because in this department, they're essentially all the same phone. All three have a polycarbonate plastic build that has the unibody chassis with the same curves and edges. In fact, if you look at the C15 and the C12 together, it's pretty hard to tell them apart, with the camera being the key tell as to which one is which. The C11 gets a different design compared to its two siblings, but the feel of the phone is generally the same except that it is a bit lighter due to the fact that it has a smaller battery at 5,000 mAh. Now, since this is the first time you're seeing this on the channel, the button and port layout on the C12 are the same with the headphone jack, mic, micro USB port, and speaker grill on the bottom. Access to the SIM tray is on the left, and the volume rocker and the power button are on the right side. Like I said, they definitely use the same mode at least for the C15 and C12. You're also getting the same screen across the board that measures in at 6.5 inches at HD+ resolution with a notch to house the front camera. While the overall picture quality is definitely good enough for everyday use, and the pixel density is what you would expect in a phone that won't break the bank, they all run into the same issue when it comes to outdoor use. Well, that's not so much of an issue right now since we are trying our best to stay home as much as possible, but that won't always be the case. But that is worth noting if you are planning to purchase any of these three phones. Probably the biggest thing that separates all these three devices is the hardware that they have under the hood, and even then, it's not by much. At the heart of all three phones beats the Helio G35 processor that features the same GPU, but what sets them apart are the RAM and storage capacities. The C11 tops out at 2GB of RAM and 32GB of storage. The C15 gets the lion's share or the most with a maximum of 4GB of RAM and double the storage at 64GB, while the C12 caps out at 332, but I do have to remind you that the C15 also has a variant with 3GB of RAM. And for me, this is why it's not such a clear-cut answer why you should or shouldn't get the C12, because if you look at the pricing, they're only 1,000 pesos apart, but we'll dive more into that later. Now, none of these phones are going to be killer in the gaming department, but more for the usual day-to-day tasks. You can play lighter titles on them, but you have to lower your expectations, not to mention the settings, to get a smoother experience. Now, of course, the best thing that these three phones have in common and the best things about them is their battery life. Now, the C11 may have less capacity than the rest, but at 5,000 mAh, it can still last up to 2 days with my usage. We ran a streaming loop test on the C12 at half brightness and 50% volume to see how long it would last, and it managed over 24 hours, so just like the slogan for Motolite, pang matagalan ang battery ng C12 at ng C15. For our foreign friends out there, that simply means that it has long-lasting battery life. Now, topping up the phones is a different story since the C15 supports slightly fasting charger speeds at 18 watts versus 10 watts on the C12, so prepare to be tethered to a wall socket for about 4 hours. Yeah, it's pretty long. Like I mentioned before, one of the biggest ways you can tell each smartphone apart are the cameras. You have 2 on the C11, 3 on the C12, and 4 on the C15. You're getting the same megapixel count on the main cameras across the board, which is 13 megapixels, while the C11 gets a 2MP portrait camera. The C12 and C15 share the same 2MP macro lens and 2MP mono camera, but you are getting an 8 megapixel ultrawide on the latter to give you more shooting options. Now, I don't have all the phones with me right now. You're seeing camera samples from the C12, but generally speaking, you're getting the same performance out of the main cameras. They definitely perform a lot better in well-lit situations, and you can see some fall off in detail as soon as the sun gets a bit lower. Plus, there is some slight shutter lag with each of these devices, so take a lot of safety shots. Now, there is night mode on the C12 to help out with that, but since we're mostly at home, we haven't really tried this out in our usual spots in BGC, but it does seem to perform rather well if you want to show off your gunpla collection like me. For selfies, the advantage in megapixel count definitely goes to the C15 at 8 megapixels versus the 5MP for the rest of its brothers. Again, make sure you're lit well to get the best results possible regardless of what device you plan on purchasing. Alright, so let's try to close out this video by answering the question, should you buy the Realme C12? And to be honest with you guys, the easy answer for me is to go straight for the Realme C15 because in my opinion, that offers more value for money. It has more RAM, more storage, you get more shooting options because of the ultra-wide angle camera, and the fact that its battery life is pretty insane, not to mention that it charges faster too. Now the main thing to consider here is how strict your budget is, because that 1,000 pesos can go to something else, something that you might need for work or studying at home. So if you really can't stretch out your budget, the C12 is a good option, and again, that 1,000 pesos can be used to purchase other essentials. Then again, for 500 pesos more, you can get the lower variant of the Realme C15, so the C12 is in a really tough spot. So there you go guys, thank you so much for dropping by. I know I say this all the time, but I really appreciate you guys spending a few minutes with me. If you like what we do, give us a thumbs up, sub to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our content. If you have any questions, leave them down below and I'll try my best to get to them as soon as I can. For all the latest tech news and gadget reviews, head to unbox.ph, plus follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. My name is Jamie, peace, God bless, see you guys next time, and stay safe.